Hi, in this video I want to step you through using a finger stick glucose monitor. The first thing that I want to talk about is why in the world you would even want to do this. So tracking your blood sugar is one of the best ways to see what it's doing. Is it swinging up? Is it swinging down? And the reason that's so important is because there are so many health issues that have an underlying root cause or foundation in blood sugar dysregulation. So maybe it's adrenal fatigue. You've been battling that for years and you can't figure out how to get a handle on that. Your thyroid, pre-diabetic conditions, things like that, those all are undergirded by improper blood sugar regulation. So one of the best, most effective, easy ways to track that is to pick up a finger stick blood glucose monitor. And I got mine on Amazon. Mine is called a Curo G10, and I'm going to unpack, I just dropped that. I'm going to unpack everything so that I can show you what it looks like and how we're going to use it. So I recommend getting one where you can easily get the test strips as a replacement, because you're going to go through a lot of these. These are the little test strips, and here's what they look like. They're just a little test strip like this. And I had a glucose monitor that I've had for years. It was the Curo G6 version, and I just found that it got really difficult and expensive to buy these replacement strips. So it was a lot cheaper for me to just upgrade my monitor and get this G10 model. It's like $14 or something like that. And then the newer test strips are a lot more easy to come by and they're less expensive. So shop around on Amazon, or if you prefer a local pharmacy or a Walmart store or something like that, just pick one up there locally and just make sure it's easy to get replacement test strips, because you're going to be testing this. If you're doing this enough to get reliable data, you're going to be doing this 4 or 5 times a day. So you're going to go through a lot of these little test strips. And the first thing you do is, here's what this monitor looks like. And when you use it, you're going to take one of your little test strips and you're gonna put it in there like that, and it usually beeps at you and lets you know that it's ready. And then they give you this nice little lancet, and you need to have what is called a needle in there. So this is how they come. You just screw off this little top, and what I do is I save this little top and stick the other one in there so that when I throw it away, it doesn't, there's not something sharp in my trash can. So you'll get your lancet and you can adjust the settings. 3 is kind of an average finger stick. I use it on about 4 because I want to get the job done. I don't want to have to poke my finger again for a second time. So what you do is make sure you wash your hands, because if you have any kind of residual sugar from a fruit or a food or anything like that, it'll affect this. And I've noticed that personally. So I just poked my finger. You got to load that little gun, poke your finger, and then you put your little drop of blood on the thing, and it counts down and says, hey, you're ready to go. And then it spits out a reading. In this case, mine was 106, and I've been kind of munching throughout the morning, so that's right where I would expect it to be. I just had some little turkey pepperonis, and so I'm not fasted, but that falls in the window where we want blood sugar to be. And so let's talk about that. Where do we want, every time we do this finger stick, we want our blood sugar to be somewhere between 85 and 110. If it's 115, I don't get too worked up about it. Once it gets up above 115, the 120s, 30s, and especially higher than that, what we know is that when blood sugar goes high, it produces an increased need for insulin. Insulin has a nickname called the fat storage hormone. So tell me how much of that you want floating around in your bloodstream. Not a lot, right? We want to keep insulin, we want to keep ourselves very sensitive to insulin, so we want to use it sparingly. When we constantly live in that high zone and we're shooting up all the time, that just provokes that insulin response, and eventually that becomes an insulin resistant pattern, and that is the groundwork for prediabetes and ultimately diabetes. So that's why we don't want to stay up there. And you will find that eating certain things and doing certain things will spike your blood sugar high like that. So the whole point of this thing is to identify those things that cause your sugar to spike. Now, we can assume that there are a lot of things that are going to do that. White breads, candy, huge doses of carbs, right? Duh. You probably knew that. I wasn't going to tell you anything you knew there. But for some people, a sweet potato does that, or a banana, or strawberries in some people's case, or watermelon, or things that we think are healthy, kombucha, other things that we think are healthy. So what we want to do is you can skip the finger stick first thing in the morning, because in my opinion, it's not super usable, because you've been fasted all night. So you're not really measuring what your body does to food. It is way more valuable to figure out what foods are triggering a response, either a spike or a crash. And so most people are going to be able to prick their finger about 4 or 5 times a day, and then they're just going to be like, I've had enough of that. And so, you kind of waste it if you're poking your finger in the morning. In my opinion, some people, that goes against some people's thought. But for me, I'm trying to see how you're responding and help you identify which things work for you and which don't. So this is your ultimate key. Like, it's so much better than saying, oh, here's a good blood sugar handling diet. You eat this, this, and this, or just go on a keto diet. And because those can be very restrictive, and quite frankly, not everybody's body responds the same to everything. So I think it's really important to know your body. And so when you eat a meal, say you eat breakfast and it's 7 o'clock, at about 8 o'clock, about 45 minutes to an hour later, stick your finger and see where your blood sugar levels are. If they have gone up over that 110, 115 range, you'll know, hey, that's just really not a good thing for me to eat. Say you have some oatmeal and a big bowl of fruit and maybe a piece of toast, and you go, ooh, and your blood sugar is 150, you'll know you don't want to do that. And so then you say, okay, what if I take the toast out? What does just the oatmeal and the fruit do? Okay, so maybe it's the toast by itself, and you just play around with that combination of foods and get to the point where you know which ones do and don't spike your sugar. So you want to be taking that about an hour after you eat, and then you want to be doing it again 2 to 3 hours after you eat, because sometimes you hit that big spike, but then you also hit a crash. And when your blood sugar comes crashing down below 80 and into the 70s, and even some people see it go as low as the 60s, what you know then is that puts your body in fight or flight mode, because your brain, the currency that operates your brain is glucose. So when you don't have that, your body says, ooh, let me create that for you. So I'm going to pull some reserves out of my liver or my muscles, and I'm going to use the stored glucagon to do that. And so that invokes your adrenal system, your stress handling system. You produce some stress hormones. Some people will feel like that's happening to them overnight. And that is the one reason that the continuous glucose monitor is so nice. If we can get a lot of good information by just using this finger stick, but if you feel like, hey, I'm waking up in the middle of the night and I can't fall back asleep, sometimes I'm hot, I get a little panicked and anxious and things like that, it's probably related to your blood sugar. You can take your blood sugar at that time in the middle of the night, but chances are by the time you wake up and get around to taking your blood sugar, your body has already done what it needs to do to pull that out of the tank. So that's why the continuous glucose monitor can be a really great tool, not only so you don't have to poke your finger all these times during the day, but the overnight thing. So while you're using the finger stick monitor, if you notice that, try to eat something with some protein and fat and a little bit of carbs before you go to bed, and see if you can sleep through the night. A good thing is maybe some celery sticks with almond butter, or even a little bit of an apple with almond butter or something like that. A little bit of turkey maybe, or a few bites of leftover protein from your dinner, a few bites of chicken or steak with, maybe a handful of vegetables and a handful of blueberries, or half an avocado, just like something like that to keep your blood sugar stable and level throughout the night. But what you're trying to do with this is find out which foods, which combinations, and which portion sizes spike your sugar. Some people do okay eating their 3 squares a day, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and they do beautifully in between those. Some people need to eat a little more often throughout the day. I find that women, especially around menopause, so think 40 to 55, somewhere in that category, a lot of times their adrenal glands are taking a hit because they back up the hormonal system and with estrogen creation and things like that. So they're already a little bit taxed out. So if we just feed this person a little more regularly, we feed you a little more consistently throughout the day, we do better, and we'll know that by using this glucose monitor. So that's what you want to do. You also want to use that tool anytime you feel like you're getting brain fog, or if you have ever had a low blood sugar event, you know what that feels like. You can get panicky and hot and shaky and like hangry and like, give me something now. A lot of times you crave sugar, carbs, salty things. If you feel like that, check your blood sugar and see what it is, and then you'll know, okay, I probably waited too long in that case to eat, so there was too much time. So that's what you want to do with this tool. It's a great tool, and I hope that helps.